Greetings, Benjamin J from Ben's Trains with another in the series. Well, I wanted to do a quick video on the Marx motor that arrived this morning. Went over and picked this up about, I don't know, 8 o'clock this morning, something like that. An original Marx motor circa 1930, something like that. It has no E-unit in the true sense of the word. It has a mechanical E-unit, basically a switch powered by this lever. Now this lever has been broken off years ago. This lever used to stick up about that far through the top of the locomotive, and that gave you a forward and reverse, as you see. So in any case, it was missing the wheel bearing, the right rear wheel bearing, and it was missing the intermediate gear. So I pulled the wheels off, found a fairly old intermediate gear, quite worn, but in this case good enough for this application. And I found an original wheel bearing, got those installed, ran a new wire up to the original light socket, and surprisingly enough, it's still intact and working. So ran a new wire to a fawn stock clip up on top of the motor. I ran this on the bench. It is running, so this is going to be its first trip around the rail, so I wanted to document this. This is an old Marx motor, about 90 years old. Just dreadful condition, and as you see, covered in rust, but then again, it's almost 100 years old. In any case, replaced the wheel bearing, replaced that intermediate gear, got the headlight wired, and this is the result. And as you see, that old motor is running just absolutely splendidly. And that is running just absolutely perfectly. Forward and reverse, as you see. It's actually quite a zippy motor. I've got to be really careful on this outside rail. I don't want to derail this. So, a true adventure. This is an old motor. But as you see, it is up and running, forward and reverse. And I need to clean this switch, of course. And it is really loose. It pivots on a central rivet, and that rivet is quite loose. But then again, you know, this motor is 90 years old. Anyway, I just wanted to do a quick video on running this. It actually runs really well. This was a lot of fun. It was a true adventure to run this thing, or to repair it. As you see, it's up and running with no problem at all. So I've been working on these things virtually all day long. I picked these up this morning about 8 o'clock, something like that. I've been working on them ever since. So I've got the 588 up and running. I've got the antique Marx motor up and running. And I worked on the Lionel 5.2 fire car. Now what this is a big brother to the Lionel 50 gang car. It's exactly the same layout, just on a much larger scale, much heavier, much bigger. The thing is, it is up and running, as you see. So 3 for 3, I fixed all 3 of the motors. The micro motor is beyond repair. It is broken, has a broken side plate. But as you see, that is running absolutely splendidly. Now, what am I going to do with it? I have absolutely no idea. You know, Austin gave me all these things. The gang car, the fire car, is missing the flashing light. There's a dome that goes here that actually has a flashing light in it. And there's a cupola that goes over this oval hole. Now to replace those things will cost $30, $40. So obviously I'm not going to do that. Temporarily I have removed the operator that had a car or a seat that swiveled back and forth with a fire hose on it, exactly like the driver on the gang car. Now the problem with this one was twofold. There was an intermittent connection. The connectors on these for the switch on this sliding bar are riveted to a phenolic sheet, and the center rivet had gotten loose, so it made an intermittent contact. So anyway, I just scraped the connector and the rivet and then soldered them together. That cured that problem. And then, as I mentioned, this light, it has a flashing light, actually uses a flashing bulb. And this is the original socket. There's an internal short in this socket. And so this would run actually quite well, about 4 feet, and then it would stop. It wouldn't blow the breaker, it would just stop. And you'd try to reverse it, nothing. Give it a shake, it would run fine, then do it again. It was really an odd phenomenon. I'm not sure why it wouldn't blow the breaker. It just had enough resistance to stop the motor. And it's really difficult to diagnose an intermittent problem. So anyway, I started looking at it, and then I discovered that it was this socket has an internal short in it. And I could fix it. It's just a matter of, am I going to do anything with this? To replace the missing parts will cost, like I said, $30, $40, something like that, if you can find them. The parts that I have found are actually quite expensive. So what I'm going to do with it, I have no idea. It was just a challenge to get it running. But as you see, it is running. It's actually running very, very well. No problem with it of any kind. It runs forward and reverse. Bumpers are working, switches are working. So, it's been a rather full day. I've been working on these things non-stop. It's after 3, so it's been a while. So the 588 is up and running. The antique Marx motor is up and running. And now the Lionel 5.2 fire car is up and running. So a rather full day. Fun though. And the nice thing about this, of course, is it gives you a tangible result. You get these things fixed and you can just kick back and watch them run. So it's actually running quite well. So it's been a fun day so far. And of course the 588. That's running just absolutely perfectly. Double reduction motor. No E-unit in it. Came from the factory that way. But as you see, that's running absolutely perfectly. So all 3 motors, the 588, the 5.2 fire car, and the Marx antique motor. I have no idea what this is out of. And I've never even seen one of these motors before, except in a book. Never worked on one. And it's really interesting, just the fact that it has a mechanical E-unit rather than an electric one. So I was really anxious to get this thing fixed. So found the wheel bearing, found an intermediate gear. That intermediate gear is actually quite worn, but it meshes quite well with this old motor. Even has the original light socket in it that works. So I just soldered a new wire onto it. As you see, went up, hooked it to the Fawn stock clip, and this motor is up and running. As you see. And not just running, this thing is running really well. I mean, considering this is 90 years old, it is actually quite incredible that it runs this well. Has the original brushes in it, it looks like. So no idea why somebody would pull it apart and then lose the wheel bearing and their intermediate gear. No idea at all. Very likely the intermediate gear was worn. I mean, this is an old motor. But to lose the wheel bearing and then have this thing wind up junker, it's probably been sitting for years with missing parts. In any case, the only thing I really have left to do is replace that contactor on the contact plate. The rear one is missing, but these just snap into position. I've got one, I just have to find it. So, in any case, it's been a rather full morning. Well, it's turned into a full day, actually. And the Marx antique motor is running. The Lionel 5.2 fire car is running. And, of course, the Marx 588 New York Central Black is up and running. So I had a lot of fun today, and you get a lot of satisfaction knowing that you're the one that brought these things back to life. And it's not particularly difficult, just time consuming, and of course when you have to go searching for parts. And these are specific parts. The only parts that will fit this motor are the original ones. None of the later bearings will fit. The intermediate gear is the same size, so it's the same, dimensionally the same as a standard Marx motor, except for the wheel bearings and the axle sizes. Anyway, I just want to do a quick video on this. Like I said, it's been a rather full day, but all three of them are running. I'm going to be stripping this one for parts. There is just no way to fix this. These are all modular. That intermediate gear here is actually riveted to the side plate, so there is no replacing it. So I'll be stripping that one for parts. The wheels, the armature is actually attached to the side plate, so you can't get the armature out. So the brushes and the brush springs, the rest of it will very likely wind up in the trash. There's absolutely no way to repair it. So in any case, just want to do a follow-up video. The Marx 588, the antique Marx single reduction, and the Lionel 5.2 fire car are all up and running. So I just wanted to do a quick video on this. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to drop me an email, BENZTRAINZ@gmail.com. And as always, thank you for watching.